And universally, Republicans like Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah say the president's actions are only going to make conservatives more mistrustful and less likely to want to compromise with this president.
I think a lot of them are going to be really, really upset and irate, and it leaves some who are more radical in a better position to stop true immigration reform.
All right, folks, joining us now, Fred Barnes, executive editor and co-founder of the Weekly Standard. Great piece. He never learns. Obama stands alone, alas. Hello, Fred.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Well, it's certainly true.
Yeah, absolutely perfectly true. And you make, I mean, you start out in the piece with the whole point being that, you know, you think he would have learned from Obamacare, going it alone, so to speak, with only Democrats. This is even worse because it's an executive order. But you know what? I don't think he cares.
Well, he should care because let's start with Obamacare. Think back to 2009 and 2010. If he had offered some things to Republicans to get them to support Obamacare, I'm not sure what he could have given, but there are plenty of things he could have. He could have given away the employer mandate or the individual mandate, but the things he could have, and he would have gotten a third to a half of the Republican votes in Congress, and we would look entirely differently at Obamacare now. It wouldn't be hated. I mean, people would have qualms about it, but it wouldn't be just hated the way it is now by a majority, a growing majority, actually, of Americans. All he needed to do was compromise a little bit. Back then, he was very popular and in command. He's not now, but he should have realized that would have been in his interest. But he never learns. No,
he didn't learn. And in fact, when it comes to immigration, you know, he gave that big speech the night that he announced the coming executive order. He quoted scripture, and it was so personal for him and so meaningful, and it's not who we are. He had 2 years to do it. Granted, he controlled the House and the Senate, a filibuster-proof Senate. It would have been maybe one party again, but at least he could have done it legislatively the right way. He couldn't have cared less about immigration for 2 years.
Well, he cared about it only as something that might jeopardize his reelection in 2012, so he didn't bring it up, even though he promised to bring it up, have his own bill, submit it to Congress in his first year in office in 2009. Well, he didn't do that, and it would have been different if he'd gotten it through Congress. Now it's, of course, you know, this executive order can be wiped away with a stroke of the pen by the next president. A Republican might do that, but I think what the president could have done is compromise. He could have called Republicans in and dealt with them and said, look, we want to get a start here, a serious start on immigration reform, and I realize we can't do it all in one comprehensive bill, but here's what we can do. This thing, we can change the immigration laws, our current law, which actually don't work at all. And anyway, he could have done that, and it would have had credibility as a law if something were passed. Now it doesn't.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. How do you think the Republicans should combat this? Of course, all the talk and some criticism from the right side of the party that Boehner and Harry Reid have now reached an agreement, and that they're going to be willing to fund this for the lame duck and in the new CR. And then once they do that, how would Boehner ever justify defunding it once he starts the ball rolling by funding it?
Well, look, there's a difference between the lame duck. We should not have lame duck sessions where you have a bunch of House members and senators who were voted out of office and still voting. What Republicans want to do is just get into next year, and when they have a majority in the House and the Senate, and see what they can do. I think there's a lot they can do, but I kind of like the idea of where you're not going to stop the president from going ahead with this. Unless you're willing to risk a shutdown. Republicans are in such a great position politically, they shouldn't shut down the government again. Some people think, well, it'll be different this time. It's never different. Fair or not, Republicans always get blamed for a shutdown. That's why Democrats and Obama want them to have one.
Right. Well, no, you're right. They get blamed. They get blamed, even though theoretically or technically, I think you'd agree, they're not shutting down the government. It's the president who would ultimately shut down the government.
Yeah, it would be the president. Yeah, it'd be the president's veto of some budget bill they sent up there. But look, Republicans have some good ideas about immigration reform. Just start passing those laws. You know, you want to let in more skilled people, more educated people. You want the ones who, foreigners who get PhD in computer science and all these things.
Right. Do it
in the United
piecemeal.
States
Do
stay
it
here.
piecemeal. Yeah. Yeah.
You can enact that right
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
The president,
He'll sign it. He probably would sign it. You're right. Hey, Fred, great to talk to you, sir. Have a happy holiday.
All right. Same to you.
Thank you. Fred Barnes, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, Jim Hoft of Gateway Pundit. But first, each year over 4 million people fly on commercial airlines. But we may never have left the ground if it had not been for the Wright brothers. So let's take a look back at this dynamic duo like Batman and Robin with this hour's American Moment.
December 17th, 1903 was a calm day at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, when two brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, readied their aircraft for a demonstration that would change history forever. Their initial flight only lasted for 120 feet, but it was enough to eventually pave a pathway to the stars. Although the brothers were not the first to build and fly experimental aircraft, they were the first ones to invent the mechanical controls that made fixed-wing, powered flight possible. But that proved both a blessing and a curse to an industry in its infancy. The Wright brothers' practice of demanding excessive fees for use of their patents and their litigious nature had an immediate and negative effect on the growth, safety, and improvement of the new industry of aviation. In 1917, Congress, recognizing air power would play a vital role in the upcoming war, passed legislation which, in effect, reduced the Wright brothers' royalty of $1,000 per plane to $200. The reduced fees sparked an explosion of growth and innovation in the new industry. Although initially outraged, the Wright family quickly realized the lower fees made it possible for more airplane manufacturers to enter the field. With more manufacturers came more planes, and with more planes came more royalties. Soon after, their royalties had exceeded $2 million in an age before income tax. Soon America was leading the air revolution. In 1927, young aviator Charles Lindbergh departed New York's Roosevelt Field for a 3,600-mile, 33.5-hour transatlantic journey to Le Bourget Field in Paris, France. The dream of the Wright brothers had become a reality, and America had led the way thanks to Orville and Wilbur Wright. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.